Okay, so we're here for another video, and this time this is still uh, using estimates. So we're moving forward to hypothesis testing. So we start off with a one-tailed test. So before we go to a sample problem, let's first have a short background of a one-tailed test, or where they use it, and what are the parameters to consider to be able to execute a one-tailed test. So first is, of course, to formulate the hypothesis. So we're going to the part wherein we begin to uh, come up with hypotheses so that we can use them for our studies later on, or for scenarios that we want to analyze. So step one in using the one-tailed test is to formulate the hypothesis. So we formulate a null hypothesis. This is the statement of the status quo, one of no difference or no effect. If the null hypothesis is not rejected, no changes will be made. This is the status quo. This is what the score is. This is the current situation, the current scenario. So here, no changes will be made. And then, of course, if you have a null hypothesis, you also have to consider an alternative hypothesis. This is the one in which some difference or effect is expected. For example, it's a test score. Will the test score increase or will the test score decrease? That will actually be your alternative hypothesis. Meaning your null hypothesis, for example, is the test score, the average test score is say 75. So we can create an alternative hypothesis. Will it increase or will it decrease? It depends on of course, what is required in the problem. The null hypothesis refers to a specified value of the population parameter, not a sample statistic. Okay, this is talking about a general, say, this is the general average, or this is the average of the whole population. So that is the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis can be rejected, but it can never be accepted based on a single test. For example, in a marketing research, the null hypothesis is formulated in such a way that its rejection leads to the acceptance of the desired conclusion. Yes, for example, you reject it, it means you're accepting the alternative. For example, a new internet shopping service will be introduced if more than 40% people use it. Then you can assume that for your null hypothesis, uh, it is less than or equal to 40%, and then your alternative hypothesis will be it is greater than 40%. So we will have a sample problem where this will be discussed further and in detail. Step 2 in doing the one-tailed test is select an appropriate test. You create a test statistic. There will be different ways on how to get a test statistic or what test statistic to use. In this, we have normal, t, or chi-square. In our n, since our population are just small, so we're using the normal distribution. So this is usually our z value. Okay. So in most examples, the z statistic, which follows the standard distribution, will be appropriate. So we will be using this formula. Just change my pen color. So just take note of this. I think I have, it should be square root of a. Okay, there you go. Just put that correction. It's a square root of n. So the test statistic that we'll be using is the z-value, and our z-value is equal to the sample mean minus the population mean all over standard deviation over the square root of the sample size. Okay, that will be used for our one-tailed test. Okay, so focus will not be a d-value, will not be a chi-square value, but instead we will just be using our normal distribution table, which we already know how to use, and we just focus on the z-values. So the next step will be, of course, before that, there could be errors with regards to the level of significance. There's what you call a type 1 error and a type 2 error. So the type 1 error, it means it occurs if the null hypothesis is rejected when it is in fact true. The probability of type 1 error is also called the level of significance. Here, we will be introducing the parameter alpha, and this is called the level of significance. Later you will see where it will be applied. The type 2 error occurs if the null hypothesis is not rejected when it is in fact false. The probability of type 2 error is denoted by beta. Like alpha, which is specified by the researcher, the magnitude of beta depends on the actual value of the population parameter, or this is in terms of proportion. So it's just necessary that you balance the two types of errors. But for this video, let's not focus on the errors. We will just first introduce um, the one-tailed test, how it's being executed, how we can perform it, and how we solve sample problems with the use of it. Okay, and then the power of a test. The power of a test is the probability, or this is 1 minus beta, of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is false and should be rejected. Although beta is unknown, it is still related to alpha. An extremely low value of alpha will result in intolerably high beta errors. So this is just introducing errors you might encounter then in the future, or if you're doing some extra reference work. So this you can use this. So for example, just a review on the normal distribution curve. So we have a shaded area, and usually our z-score is here. So for example, it's 1.88. This is just an example, meaning on the left side will be the whole shaded area. That will be the probability, and this one is the um, right side. That unshaded area, the 0.0301, is actually the alpha. Okay, so well, I don't usually ask you to draw a normal distribution curve, so let's just do this in passing. Let's go to the steps. Step 4 will be collect data and calculate the test statistic. The required data are collected and the value of the test statistic is computed. Again, as I've said, we will isolate our test statistic as the z equals, okay, the sample mean over the population mean all over standard deviation and the square root of the sample size. We'll be using this for our problem solving. And then for step 5, determine the probability value or the critical value. Yes, we begin to compare at a certain significance level or a certain confidence level, we will be getting the z critical or the critical z value. So in determining the critical value of the test statistic, the area to the right of the critical value is either alpha, which as I've said a while ago, this is your alpha, your z cal. Value is either or alpha over 2 if it is a two-tailed test. Okay, in our case, we'll be using one tail, so we'll just be considering alpha. So only one direction because the scores will just either increase or decrease. And of course, for steps 6 and 7, these are the final steps. You compare probability and make the decision. Your decision now is either you just reject the null hypothesis or you accept it. If the problem associated with the calculated value of the test statistic, zcal, or this is our, yes, sorry, z calculated, is less than the level of significance, then the null hypothesis is rejected. Of course, if it's greater than the critical value of the test statistic, the null hypothesis is also rejected. Okay, so we will apply this in a problem. So I only prepared one example, and then we'll solve it. I'll guide you through it, and I'll go to the different steps. So let's just go and read the problem. A software engineering instructor claims that a new study technique improves the average exam score of students. Last year, the average exam score was 72. This year, a sample of 35 students using a new study technique has an average score of 76 with a standard deviation of 9. Test the instructor's claim at a 5% significance level. Okay, so let's just go over the problem. First step is actually to set up the hypothesis. So we can create our null hypothesis. We can say that for our null hypothesis, we can say that our mean is equal to 72 because that is the exam score. If you've seen here last year, that was the average exam score. In other literature, other references, you can also say that your null hypothesis is less than or equal to 72. Okay, you can say that. I wouldn't mind. Again, we'll be using the one-tailed test here because we are just testing if the average score increases. Because the claim of the instructor would be it increased to 76. So, okay, next step, we collect the data. So, of course, we get the data. From this, we have a sample size of 35. We have a mean, which is here 76. And then we have a standard deviation given. I think it's 9. There you go. And then we have a population mean. Okay, you can say that's mu is 72. The population mean is also the mean that falls under the null hypothesis. You can see it from here. There you go. And then there's a given alpha for a significance level, which is 0.05. So let's just give for reference, we can see that this is sample size so that we have a reference when going over or going back to the video. This is the sample mean. And then this is of course the sample standard deviation. And then this is the population mean. And this is of course the significance level. At this point, you have noticed that the data is readily available. It's just up to you how to use it or how to, of course, group the data to find out which will be used in finding the test statistic. Okay, next step will be to solve for the z-value. So we can go ahead and solve for the z-value. So our z is equal to, okay, all over standard deviation all over the square root of n. So we'll just substitute our values from the first slide, 76 minus 72 all over 9 all over square root of 35. If my values are correct, I computed here 2.63. So does it end there? Of course not, because we still have to get the critical value. This is our z calculated. Okay, so this is the z cal. So we all now have to get the z critical for the critical z value. So for the critical z value, okay, this will be getting the critical z value. Getting the critical z value, then we have to consider the significance level. Our alpha here is 0.05. Therefore, the probability, the one we will be checking in our normal distribution table is 95%. Okay, so this 95% is actually the area on the left side and 5% is on the right. So what do? We would look for the shaded area and 95% translates to 0.9500, for example. And we look this up in the z table. So I believe I have a z table here. I already uh, assumed the position of 0.95. So I can just look for 0.95 like what we're using it before. So it's here, it's in between this one. It's 9.95 and 9505. It's exactly in the middle. So we can say, we can use this. It becomes 1.6. And I guess the middle of this one. Okay, 1.645. Okay, I can assume that my Z critical is in between the values here because it's 9500. So my Z critical now is 1.645. It's in the middle of 1.64 and 1.65. So we go back here. We can say that our Z critical is equal to 1.615. Okay, let's just highlight that. Now you already have Z cal and Z critical. Therefore, the last step will be to compare the two. So in this case, 2.60, oops, sorry. In this case, we say that 2.63 is greater than 1.645. Okay, let's just clarify that this is our Z cal and this is our Z critical. So that being said, since it is greater than our computed or our calculated Z is greater than our critical Z value, then what do? We reject our null hypothesis. Since you can put it here if you want to put the um, reason behind, since the calculated Z value is greater than the critical value. Okay, sorry for the handwriting. Which means the assumption of the instructor that the score is increased is actually true because they are greater than 72. Okay, so this is our example for one field test. It's we just really uh, went through the steps, and hopefully this can be used in the next problems that you will be encountering before we move further in our discussion in our statistics class. Okay, thank you so much, and till the next video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, thank you so much.